From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Well, good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce. This is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, as you rein in your spending, he wants the federal government to do likewise. We'll tell you what one Nevada leader says needs to be done to reduce waste in government and increase the money in your pocket. And he is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Senator John Ensign. And thanks so much for being here today.
Good to be with you, Marilee.
Appreciate it. Washington's grotesque spending levels are continuing to spiral out of control. That's from our Senator Ensign in a recent press statement. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll get his thoughts on the burgeoning deficit. We'll ask him what Nevada's small businesses most need from Capitol Hill. And we'll find out how he rescued federal funds nearly taken from a bill that helps tourism. Well, same news, different month. The Treasury Department continues to release month after month its update on the budget deficit. And as I said a moment ago, our Senator Ensign is now terming federal spending grotesque. We'll look here at the report that put him over the edge and had him addressing the press, but don't think the news has brightened since then. It was in December of last year, the Treasury Department announced that the U.S. ran its 26th straight monthly budget deficit. That most recent report, November's, showed $150.4 billion had been added to the national debt. Now, Senator Ensign told the press late last year that he has spoken to hundreds of you Nevadans about your spending versus Washington's. He said that Nevada families are, quote, frustrated that they have to responsibly balance their budgets each month or risk losing their homes, credit, cars, and good credit standing. And he added, quote, and yet the United States government has irresponsible thrown our nation's good credit away in order to cash in on the instant gratification policies that threaten the very nature or the very future of our country. And Senator, we have grotesque, drunk, out of control. No one I'd go to dinner with, but those are the words you used to describe the federal spending.
Well, there's no question that it is a very serious problem, and there aren't words actually that can adequately describe how irresponsible that politicians in Washington have been with with this borrowing, this spending that's going on. We're borrowing 42 cents out of every dollar that we spend. 42 cents out of every dollar. Can you imagine any family, any business surviving on that? And it's literally a threat to our future economy, economic prosperity, and literally to the future of the United States. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office director a couple weeks ago said, after announcing the biggest deficit in U.S. history, $1.5 trillion, which is a number that we can't even conceive of. It's so large. But after announcing that deficit, he said that the public borrowing, government borrowing, is actually crowding out private sector investment to create jobs. I mean, it's a direct result. We now have such a large deficit. We're spending so much money paying interest on the national credit card that it's hurting our national economy.
Well, I have another quote from you in that same press statement. You said, quote, the most important thing that we can do to get our economy moving again and people back to work is to stop these ridiculous Washington spending spree. Okay, how do you turn it off or at least turn down that faucet?
Well, we have to have political courage, and it takes both parties now. We have a Democrat president with a Republican House and a Democrat Senate, and if we join together to make these tough political choices, neither party can get blamed or both parties can get blamed. That's actually why sometimes a divided government like this is a great opportunity. In the late 1990s, we had a Democrat president and Republican Congresses, and guess what we did? We actually cut spending relative to the economy and balance the budget and pay down over $400 billion of the U.S. debt. Now we have out of control Washington spending where people haven't had the political courage. And we need to forget about whether a Republican or a Democrat. And we need to think about really what's going on with America and say, forget our own re-elections. Let's do what's right for the American people.
And you must be, and listening to you right now, you must be, and you sound frustrated. You were here last fall, and you were here to talk about your high ranking by a group called the Council for Citizens Against Government Waste. And That's a group that scores you annually on your stand on issues concerning taxes, concerning the deficit and spending. And you got a hero status, not superhero because you have to have 100%, but you got a hero status. You were 96%. And back then you said, quote, the national debt is prolonging our economic turmoil. And yet you're got to be frustrated that not a whole lot's changed since last fall.
Yeah, the thing that has changed, the American people woke up, and so we have a new Congress now, and we have new people in Congress who I think have courage. It's a question of do we have enough of them, and hopefully we do. And the president in his State of the Union address, he talked about trimming $400 billion over the next 10 years. Now that didn't include his new spending proposals, which will reduce that $400 billion. But even if you just took that whole $400 billion, that is actually only 4 cents out of every dollar that we are going to add in debt. That isn't an amount of spending. It's actually less than a penny out of every dollar that we're going to spend, but it's only 4 pennies out of every dollar we're going to actually add to the national debt, to our national credit card. That's why that was such an inadequate speech. The president really needs to lead at this point. He needs to call Republicans and Democrats together to join in to say, you know what, we're going to do this thing together. We're going to tell the American people how big the problem is, how bad it is, and we're going to join together and do what's right.
You mentioned the people spoke at the last election, and speaking of people, what do Nevadans you've talked to who are in this horrid recession, especially for the #1 state for unemployment and foreclosures, they have no choice, right, but to make these painful decisions on their own spending. What do the ones you've talked to, what do they think of the rising debt and the increasing deficit?
Well, I hear at every place I go that people are really concerned about the level of spending, the level of debt that we're building up in Washington, D.C. They're concerned about the health care bill and the uncertainty that is doing for the businesses and the cost and making it more difficult to create jobs. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there with the real estate industry and our housing prices going to continue to go down, or are we going to be able to recover the housing prices? So in Washington, the message that I'm getting from Nevada is, one is cut your spending, and two is focus on the policies that are going to create private sector jobs, not government jobs, because we've seen the government spending really hasn't done a lot for our economy by creating private or government jobs. So we need to incentivize the private sector to create those jobs because that'll help the deficit as well as put people back to work.
And speaking of the private sector, when we come back, we're going to find out what you would do to help Nevada's small businesses. That's on Eye on Washington right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Brought to you by the Southern Nevada Water Authority, the National Mining Association, the Frias Companies, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
Sunrise, the Mojave Desert. Just another day in Southern Nevada? Think again, pal. Millions of concerned citizens are throwing in to conserve water. Yes, from the welcoming hills of Boulder City to the friendly streets of Spring Valley, everyone's playing their part. Way to go, Joe. It's a desert out there. Be water smart. Go to snwa.com.
Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C., is your weekly update on the top federal issues that are most important to Nevadans. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column that puts a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials from industry and business leaders about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals, too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the government spending decisions versus the spending decisions you Nevadans are forced to make in this recession. My guest today is somebody who says he'd like government to be able to spend less and you to be able to spend more, and he is Nevada U.S. Senator John Ensign. So I didn't major in math, but it seems to me that you could spend more if you had a job. Well, our Senator Ensign says he has an idea that he claims would get a whole lot of you off unemployment. And that idea is to make it easier for business, particularly Nevada's struggling small businesses, to feel confident enough to hire. That confidence would come, he says, largely through a better business atmosphere brought about by a tax and investment incentives. We hear it from our elected officials, from chambers of commerce, from business owners. Small businesses are the engine of the nation's economy. On the issues for Nevada section of Senator Ensign's website, under the heading Tax Relief, it reads, the concept of growing the economy by promoting a good atmosphere for business so that more Americans work, save, and invest should be a bipartisan policy as it once was. And Senator, you followed that statement with a quote from President Kennedy, and since this is the 50th anniversary of him becoming president, it's a good time to read it. You put on your website, quote, it is increasingly clear that no matter what party is in power, so long as our national security needs keep rising, an economy hampered by restrictive tax rates will never produce enough jobs or enough profits. And 50 years later, you seem to echo that.
Well, the current president in his State of the Union address talked about the corporate tax rate in America, that it's the highest in the industrialized world, and it makes us less competitive. He's talked about getting rid of regulations, which really are hidden tax. We're going to see whether he actually brings proposals forward on both of these issues, but several of us, including myself, are working on proposals to make it easier for people to create jobs, to create wealth in the United States that makes us more competitive in this global economy.
For instance,
well, right now we have a 35% corporate tax rate. I believe strongly that we need to decrease the corporate tax rate to around 24%. It'll make us more competitive, make our products more competitive for export. That creates manufacturing jobs in the United States, which we know how many manufacturing jobs have been lost. But also on small businesses, a lot of small businesses actually end up paying that higher rate. We need to make it, if possible, I'd like to see sole proprietorships. These small business owners pay the same as large corporations. Right now they pay quite a bit higher of a tax rate, and they shouldn't be penalized simply because they're a small business. But on the regulations, people don't realize how many regulations ship jobs overseas. We have, a reasonable amount of regulation is good. Too much of it makes us less competitive.
Well, mining is probably the best example in Nevada.
There's no question.
Mining leaders on this show.
If we could take the same regulations, but allow people to get through them more quickly instead of taking years and years and years and lawsuits, mining jobs in Nevada, you could probably produce another 10 to 20,000 mining jobs, which are high-paying jobs in the state of Nevada in the next 2 years if you could speed up the regulations, because we have still a lot of unmined gold, copper, other minerals in the state of Nevada, and if we could go after those with high-paying jobs by limiting the regulations and really just speeding up the complying with those regulations, we can do better with our economy and our state.
So help our audience get this, getting back to the link. What is the link between a stronger and more confident small business and its hiring rate?
Well, if businesses feel more confident in what's going to happen in the future, whether their tax rates are going to be either lower or stay the same, whether there's new regulations. The health care bill has created a lot of uncertainty with small business owners going forward. And with that uncertainty, they don't know whether to invest to expand their company. And that means hiring more people. If whether they're just buying new capital equipment or hiring that next employee, that's good for the economy. And if there's uncertainty, they don't want to do that. So we as policymakers need to understand, what business people think. I was a small business owner. I built, owned, and operated 2 different animal hospitals. And if there's uncertainty in the future, like right now, if you're a veterinarian, you're not going to expand your business because there's so much uncertainty in the southern Nevada, or actually in the entire Nevada economy. And so a lot of small businesses are looking at it that way, and very uncertain times means that they don't want to put money into their business right now.
You know, quickly, I don't want to end this segment without letting you talk a moment about the taxes of those working Nevadans who are working for those businesses. And, you know, once they have that job, you've said you want tax policy and rates to allow them to keep more of what they earn as well.
Yeah, keeping tax rates low. We did that back in December. There was policy. I don't think they did it in the right way, but at least there was the next 2 years the tax rates are going to stay the same, so that they do have more of their own money in their pocket, and that's a good thing. But if people want to know, you know, what's the best policy, you know, a job or welfare, their own health care or Medicaid, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that we get the economy growing, we produce jobs, because it takes a lot less tax revenue to support somebody, you know, who's actually sending money to the government versus somebody who's actually receiving money for the government. It's just common sense, and that's why we need to focus on those kind of policies that produce jobs. Okay, when Eye on Washington returns, we're going to tell you how the senator is trying to save tourism. That's right after this.
Sunrise, the Mojave Desert. Just another day in southern Nevada? Think again, pal. Millions of concerned citizens are throwing in to conserve water. Guests from those hipsters in Henderson to those frolicking families around Lone Mountain, everyone's playing their part. Nice frolicking. It's a desert out there. Be water smart. Go to snwa.com.
Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in northern Nevada.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of one Nevada leader's efforts to help you get a job, keep more of your money, and in general help Nevada's overall economy. We've been visiting with him, Nevada U.S. Senator John Ensign. Well, let's focus this segment on some other efforts our Senator Ensign is making to strengthen Nevada's economic outlook. We mentioned last segment that small business is the engine of our nation's economy. Well, another major part of the car driving Nevada's economy is tourism. Now, last March, President Obama signed into law the Travel Promotion Act, a first ever national travel promotion and communications program to attract more international travelers to the U.S. It's been called a major step in addressing America's decline in attracting overseas visitors to this country during the past decade. As you know, Nevada could use such a boost. Well, at the end of last year, this crucial to Nevada bill nearly faced peril were it not for the fast acting by our Senator Ensign. The funds for the Travel Promotion Act were nearly directed toward the 9/11 first responder bill, but Senator Ensign says he quickly worked to prevent this from happening. He says the text of the 9/11 first responder bill indicated it would use the money already set aside for the Travel Promotion Act to fund the additional money going toward the first responders of 9/11. In a statement after the effort, the senator said, quote, "I'm proud that the people of our state will be protected against the misappropriation of these important funds while still providing help to these first responders." But Senator, you worked with colleagues to remove this language from the bill, but I want to be clear. You are a big supporter of first responders, and you've saluted them here on Eye on Washington. You just don't want their legislation funded by legislation that was to help travel and tourism.
What they were trying to do is look for, quote, pay-fors, so that it would be deficit neutral. One of the pay-fors was the Travel Promotion Act. These funds were supposed to be set aside to promote tourism to the United States. Anybody who watched the Olympics from Canada or watched them from any place, a lot of times what a country will do is put ads on TV promoting their country, making people want to come to their country and showing what beautiful places they have. Well, the United States, for Nevada, we have Lake Tahoe, we have obviously Southern Nevada, we have the Grand Canyon, which Southern Nevada is the gateway to the Grand Canyon. We have some incredible places that America can advertise to the rest of the world. And overseas travelers spend a lot more per visit than domestic travelers do. So, we have a trade imbalance in the United States. Well, one of the things that can help our trade imbalance is if we bring tourists to the United States. It's the number one part of the economy in the country for the whole United States, not just Nevada. We're very tourism dependent in Nevada, and so everything that we can do to help tourism is a good thing for us. And Nevada, about 2 years ago, took a severe blow when President Obama took office, and he said, don't take these bailout funds to the banks and go to the Super Bowl or to Las Vegas. Well, conventions literally were decimated in our state. They're just now starting to come back. So we need to do everything we can to promote tourism to help our state, and because the more people who are coming to our state to spend tourist dollars, that's more jobs. That helps us county and city budgets, it helps the state budgets, it helps our schools.
And tell us a little more about specifically what this the act does. The head of the LVCVA, Rossi Rollencotter, he was on Eye on Washington just before it passed, telling our audience how important it was to Nevada that this bill passed.
Yeah, I think it's very important because we're one of the only countries that doesn't advertise, that doesn't promote tourism and tourists coming to our country. I mean, how many people have seen the ads about going down, down under in Australia and the wonderful places to see? And there's other places. You see Egypt before all this crisis that happened in Egypt, but they were advertising in our country about going to see the pyramids and the other places. Well, we have just spectacular places to see in the United States, including places in Nevada that can be promoted to other countries, get people to encourage to come to the United States. Since 9/11, overseas travelers have decreased, and we need to compensate for that by telling people that America is welcoming you with open arms. Bring your wallets and come and have a good time and see all the incredible places that we have here in America.
And the most welcoming place, Nevada.
Absolutely. We have some of the best places to see in our entire country.
We'll be right back with our mailbag segment right after this.
Sunrise, the Mojave Desert. Just another day in Southern Nevada? Think again, pal. Millions of concerned citizens are throwing in to conserve water. Yes, from the sunny folks at Sunrise Mountain to our pals out in Red Rock. Everyone's playing their part. Saving water is fun? I'll say it's a desert out there. Be water smart. Go to snwa.com.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. Play responsibly.
We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
Built on a fleet of just 5 cabs bought in 1966 by founder Charlie Frias, Frias Transportation is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Today, Frias has a fleet of nearly 1,000 vehicles and more than 2,000 employees. As an industry and community leader, Frias continues to create the future of transportation technology and management and actively supports the community, continuing the legacy of quality service in the Las Vegas Valley. Simply the best. Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Sunrise. The Mojave Desert. Just another day in southern Nevada? Think again, pal. Millions of concerned citizens are throwing in to conserve water. Guests from those hipsters in Henderson to those frolicking families around Lone Mountain, everyone's playing their part. Nice frolicking. It's a desert out there. Be water smart. Go to snwa.com.
And we're back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It's our mailbag segment. In this segment, we tell you about an issue our guest is receiving a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and we invite our guest to respond to you right here. And Senator, your office has been hearing a lot about Internet regulation. I know you've involved a lot of Internet acts, and it says, Dear Senator Ensign, this is from Glenn D. of Reno, by the way. It says, you've stated that you are unhappy with new FCC regulations which govern the Internet. Please tell me what you think should be done to promote progressive and responsible use of the Internet in lieu of legislation.
Well, first of all, the Internet has really been a miracle for jobs, for what you're seeing in Egypt right now. That was because of social networking. There's so many wonderful things. There's some negatives, obviously, about the Internet, child predators, things like that, and you know, law enforcement needs the tools to be able to go after people who are stealing identities, various things like that. But the FCC is trying to regulate a place where there isn't a problem. It's called net neutrality. For people who aren't familiar with that, people like Google want net neutrality, and what net neutrality would do is it would solidify Google's place in the marketplace. Okay, they dominate right now. Who's going to be the next Google to come along? Facebook actually could be a real competitor to Google, and Google wants to ensure their place in the marketplace, and other people that have dominant positions on the Internet want to ensure that, and we want to make sure that the Internet stays free so it can continue to be this job producer that's been so incredible over the last 10 to 15 years.
So Glenn can count on you to fight for that.
Well, that's what we're going to continue to fight, is to keep the Internet as free as possible.
Thanks for being here on All This today. We'll see you again soon. That is it for this week's Eye on Washington. Be sure to join us next time as we discuss more important federal matters and their impact on you in Nevada. For federal news anytime that impacts you, visit us at joycecommunications.com. Marilee, Joyce in Washington. Good day.